Many of us believe in the power of having an engaging culture with our teams, but we often feel we lack the time or skills to build it or know what it looks like. One of the best ways to establish culture is to create and embody what you stand for and what you don't. In this episode, the value of clarifying your mission, vision, and values, along with a Super Bowl snack idea. Welcome to the first episode ever of Meet the Founder Live. I'm your host, John Saunders. This is in addition to Meet the Author Live, if you've seen some of those episodes. I'm the founder of Forward Advisory Solutions, a coaching and consultancy firm, and the author of The Optimizer, Building and Leading a Team of Serial Innovators. My firm was built on the foundation of over 20 years as an executive distribution leader on Wall Street and a relentless focus on mission clarity, collaborative innovation, and problem solving. Meet the Founder Live offers you insights into mission-driven companies through live conversations with the ability to get your get your questions answered in real time. To start, please drop in the chat your favorite Super Bowl food so we know you know how to use the chat function, because we're going to use that later on today in a little bit here to answer your questions and take your comments. And it's also great to get to know where you're calling in from. So please drop in the state or area you're calling in from as well. In today's episode, we'll meet founder Margarita Womack, who launched her company Maspandadas in 2017. Her company has a mission to make a positive impact on individuals, communities, and the planet, fostering well-being and inspiring change through products, and services. Let's learn more about Margarita. As the founder of Maspanada, she and her husband Andy were raising 3 boys, trying to keep up with their busy professional lives, and failing at finding healthier, tasty family meal options that fit between business calls, soccer games, and carpools. She grew up in Colombia, playing in her father's kitchen. He owned a restaurant that featured typical Colombian food bandeja paisa, I think I got that right, in the ballpark, sancocho, arroz con pollo, arepas, and of course, empanadas. She learned from a young age that food isn't just fuel for the body, but a chance to taste life. She's now the winner of the Ernst & Young Mid-Atlantic Entrepreneur of the Year Award, and employs 90 people, and will soon be nationwide with her empanadas at a major grocer that we'll announce today. Margarita is also has a PhD in ecology and evolutionary biology from Princeton University and an MBA from Georgetown University. Margarita, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Well, very excited to be here today, John. Thank you so much.
It's great to have you. And just to really be ready for today, I went ahead and had Maspandadas last night, beef and vegetable for dinner. A+, my friend, A+. Loved it. So
I'd say empanadas is my favorite food for Super Bowl, of course.
Nice. It's good to know. So, it's so cool you got to work and live in and around a kitchen as a kid. What was that like growing up in that environment with food all around you?
It was so much fun because, it's always something that I considered that's part of my daily life. My dad really liked cooking at home also, right? He was always doing the cooking. He would always make a big mess too, though, I have to say. And the weekends, so it's a restaurant that was open the weekends more than anything, was kind of a countryside restaurant. And so it was kind of fun. It was the break for the week, right? We would go there and spend the whole day there. So I would just play in the kitchen and hang out in the backyard. And it just was part of who I was and how I was raised.
That is so cool. So it's just been embedded in you for years. And now you've taken that passion for food, you've brought it to America, and now have been on this, I'll call it a non-linear entrepreneurship journey, founder journey. Is that a fair statement? And what has that been like for you?
Absolutely. And I challenge you to find an entrepreneur that has not had that sort of trajectory.
A linear journey.
A linear journey. I wonder now it's different. There might be some in the future now, because you actually have entrepreneurship classes and have the chance to even pitch ideas in high school and college, right? So something that's seen as an actual potential career nowadays. So it might change. But I think for older generations, it's not the case. You are supposed to have a steady job, a 9 to 5, and maybe be a business owner, but it's not something you start usually or you inherit. And I was trained to be a scientist, and that's what I really thought I would do. It's something I've had a passion for since I was a child, understanding the natural world, right? What's happening out there? What's the explanation for these things we see? And I thought that would be my path from very early on. Started biology, went on to do a PhD in ecology and evolutionary biology, and even went to do a postdoctoral degree, and have maybe a dozen publications or so. in very obscure things, like the genetic basis of morphological differences between sister species of Drosophila. I can tell you all about it, or I could tell you all
Sounds
about
outstanding.
spider genitalia. It's also a very fun topic that I have 2 publications on. Yeah.
First episode, first conversation about spider genitalia on Meet the Founder Live. You heard it here first,
It's always
ladies and
a
gentlemen.
first.
So quite a journey you've been on. And, there's another piece to this story that maybe everyone isn't quite familiar with. And you're also an immigrant, right? You were born in another country, Colombia, and had a pretty unique path on landing here, by the way. And I'd love for you to share a little bit about that journey. What was it like coming to America for you?
So talk about nonlinear. So I had considered I would go to the United States for graduate school when I would be ready to do my PhD, but never considered leaving Colombia before. As most Colombians do, when you go to college, you still are living at home. You actually even stay at home until you get married. And I had just started college. Life was good. I was head over heels in love with someone at that point, and I've had my horses. It was great life. And suddenly it just changed when FARC, one of the main guerrilla groups in Colombia, started to extort my mother. The threat started escalating, and it got to a point where it was not safe for us to be in Colombia any longer. And you can pay, and they'll go away for a bit. But my mother did not want to play the game. If you pay, then they just go and threaten your neighbor, and then threaten the next one, and it just keeps them going. And so, the only way to stop it is to say no. But then you run the risk of actually getting hurt. There are some horrible stories of what guerrilla have done to people. So we had to leave, and this was middle of the year. Didn't have a place to just go to. So we reached out to different schools in the US to see if we would be able to apply off cycle. And fortunately, Tulane University was one of the ones that responded positively. And we just had to pack the bags and go. And I was very lucky to be able to transfer and continue my education in the US, start something much earlier than I thought. So instead of for PhD, I did most of my undergrad also in the US. I've been in the US now for 23 years, so longer in the US than I ever lived in Colombia.
I mean, wow. You think about all the reasons that we sort of change, and most people don't move ever in their lives, right? I read some statistic a while ago that said something like 50 to 70% of people never move more than 25 miles away from where they were born. And if they do move, it's probably because of a job or a marriage or something like this. And you had quite a different reason to do so. Thinking about that pretty scary and just dramatic change in your life. And by the way, shout out to Tulane University for sneaking you in the middle of the year. I couldn't just think about switching schools in the middle of the year and have to do it based on the circumstances. But how do you think that immigrant journey impacted you? And what do you think you learned from that along the way, particularly as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. Leaving absolutely everything I was and I loved and I knew behind. I didn't really speak English either. I had learned it in school, but you read it, you sort of write it, but you didn't really speak it. And transition to such a different culture. It hurt a lot. But at the same time, I learned so much. And maybe it goes hand in hand with those, the big lessons in life usually hurt a lot. But made me stronger for sure. Made me realize I have a lot of grit, and made me realize more than anything that we are so adaptable, that life can throw at you so many different things, and you are going to be okay. There's a way to figure it out. And also increase my tolerance to risk, knowing, not really necessarily knowing exactly what's going to happen, next week, and taking it. I think it's all of those are huge skills to have as an entrepreneur, because you have to manage high risk, because you have to have grit and take things the way they come and get up and try again. And you don't necessarily know where things are going to go. You got to be ready for it and be able to pivot when you need to.
Adaptability, willingness to take on a little bit of risk, know that there's potentially uncertainty ahead, right? The path ahead is never quite certain, particularly as an entrepreneur. And wow, what incredible lessons you've learned. And I think that is a great segue into, what it is that helped really drive your company, why you wanted to get it off the ground, right? And there's so much, I think, to that story. But before we go there, I want to just share a couple of quick shout outs to some snacks that people threw out there. Sam, nacho fan for Super Bowl parties. Angel Lorente, chicken wings. Oh, here we go. Kimberly, we finally got one. Kimberly likes the Maspanadas, and also a big fan of yours. So thank you, Kimberly, for jumping on there. So Margarita, what drove you to get this company off the ground, Maspanadas?
No, I never thought it'd be what it is nowadays. Had you asked me 7.5 years ago, just wait 7.5 years, and you'll be the CEO of a company making frozen empanadas reaching nationwide, be like, you're crazy. There's no way. I was teaching. So once I finished my PhD, I started teaching at a middle school, teaching science, because I thought it'd be so much more compatible with family for a period of time. I have 3 little boys, and I had got to a point where I had 2 young boys, a newborn, and a full-time job, and no help whatsoever. I was pretty much ready to jump out the window. And that's when I really felt the hole that it is to not have your family around, a community around you. And so I had a friend of the family come to visit from Colombia, and she helped me out during a time of need. And so she was here and thought, like, look, there's so many opportunities here in the US. I would love to make a life here. And I was more than happy to entertain the idea of helping her figure out a way for her to be able to do so. And so it turns out that if you are Colombian, and this is not just for Colombians, there's various nationalities where this is the case, or I'm not sure what the status is any longer, but you could apply for special visa for personnel, essential personnel, if you were starting a business in the US that had a cultural edge to it. So, hey, we're going to do a catering company out of my home kitchen. It'll be a modern Latin American catering company, and you are going to be the chef. And so we'll get you a visa that way, so you can stay and have a job and have stability. So we started the catering company. I had no idea what I was getting into. It was supposed to be something small to cater to friends and neighbors. But turns out, learned pretty quickly, you can't get the proper licensing, the proper permits in Maryland. So we joined the incubator kitchen in DC called a Union Kitchen. And there we got the support we needed to start growing the business, and the shared commercial kitchen where we could get the proper licensing and permits and get the business off the ground. Really soon, we realized the empanadas were the best sellers in the menu, and that there was a real business opportunity in frozen foods. So we pivoted to that and started really maybe just a few months after we launched the company to do mostly just empanadas. Though to complete the story about my friend, at that point, the regulations for that visa started changing, and the demands were something we couldn't meet. So we couldn't get the visa for her. So she went back to Colombia. But I was really loving this. I
The
come
business.
from a bit of putting together a business. There's certain elements that are like science, and that science was a wonderful training for. You are in the end problem solving. You are looking for evidence for your hypotheses or lack of evidence, which in case is a product and product market fit, right? So it's those same skills came in handy to then grow a business and test this idea that the United States was the perfect market to launch a product that's a street food across Latin America that people eat, like you eat hot dogs in New York. And my family thought I was absolutely nuts. Frozen empanadas in the United States, and you're quitting your job to do this? You've completely lost it, my friend.
You just got an MBA. What are you doing? Right?
Yep.
Incredible. I vividly remember when we first met at a school event, having both gone to the same business school. And then we had lunch sometime later when you very first opened your factory operations up in Rockville. And I remember it was you and 5 or 6 other ladies literally like hand pressing empanadas. Do I have the story right? I think I'm in the ballpark. And I had to put a hairnet on. And at the time I had a beard. I had to put a beard net on, which I'd never worn before. That was a fun day.
Yes, it's funny how it went, right? We went from the incubator kitchen where it had a teeny corner, a little table, and just enough to get us started. We outgrew it, and we're lucky that we had the opportunity to take over our current space and moved in with a crowd. Yeah, we were seven people, and we just made a few hundred empanadas a day. And it's unfortunately have photos to remember that time because nowadays we make 25 plus 1,000 pounds of product a week.
Um, it's hard to even imagine that. You said you made a couple hundred a day. Now you're making 25,000 pounds a week. I'm hearing this right?
Yeah,
That's
that's right.
That is mind blowing. And I love this theme that keeps showing up in all your stories of adaptability, problem solving, applying everything you've learned in life to sort of each challenge ahead and accepting that each challenge, you may or may not be ready for it, but you've created this incredible mindset to do so. And I see a comment in here from Kimberly. Most great women-owned businesses like yours are shaped by practical decisions like family. I love that. And it's fascinating to me that you and your husband, right, started this company together, trying to just sort of find healthy snacks for your kids. It's such a cool story. And part of this problem solving and sort of marriage of all these great skills you've developed over your lifetime is putting together this unique product. What is it about Maspanada's that's made them so unique and got you on the shelves in so many places and many more to come?
So empanadas are an ancestral dish that becomes a thing in the Middle Ages in Spain as a way to enjoy leftovers. So empanada means in bread, so wrapped in bread. So you're literally just getting your leftovers, putting bread around them, and that's a way to enjoy them later down the road, right? And the Spanish took them to all of their colonies. You can find empanadas in the Philippines, and all of Central and South America have a version of it. It's something that you might enjoy at breakfast, at lunch, as a sweet, and you find them in every corner. So what we did was take the fun, the portability, the taste of this product, but elevating it for nutrition. So ours actually have a high protein. They have lots of vegetables. The new line, well, the new packaging that's going to come out, we now have them as a whole grain also. And then, but they're frozen for you to enjoy at home. You just need a few minutes to prepare them. And you have something that you can take with you anywhere, that your kids can prepare on their own, that it can be a snack, it can be an appetizer, it can be a whole meal. And it has that sort of flair, that fun, that passion, right? That it's the Hispanic culture.
That is so cool. It's so interesting how foods evolve over time and where they even sort of sourced from, right? What's that old saying? Necessity is the mother of invention. And maybe people were just sort of looking for an easy way to get food and be able to carry it with them. And what a great treat. And as I said, I really enjoyed empanadas. Every time I go to my local Whole Foods here, I get a little smile on my face because it says, they have a little sign above it that says brought to you by a local producer, which of course is you, and right up the street in Rockville, which is amazing. So to get to this point in the journey, there's certainly been some sweat equity involved, no doubt about it. And at the same time, you had to do a little raising of funds. Tell us a little bit about that journey as a female, as an immigrant. What does that look like for you?
It's one of the hardest pieces of it because if you're growing a business, you need that fuel, and to keep on growing, you need more fuel. And it becomes this almost egg and chicken problem, right? So you need to buy packaging, you need to buy ingredients, you need to pay labor in order to make more sales. But you need the sales to pay for the packaging, the labor, and the ingredients. Conundrum. So that's when raising becomes an opportunity. We were able to bootstrap most of the way for the first few years, but to grow the brand, to really take it outside the Metro DC area, we require that extra financial support. When you launch a product at a new retailer, there's a large number of fees associated with that. And while product catches on in the market, you have to also support it, right? Lots of promotions, marketing, etc. So you want to have sufficient cash to do that effectively. So we did a seed round that's still going actually. So we stopped it early last year, having have enough and thinking that would support us through a Series A that we were going to start in about now. We thought we would be going on, but we were also working on SBA in parallel because we knew our current plant was not going to be enough. And that happened really fast. We are exploding at the seams. We don't fit in our current space. And we closed the SBA at the end of last year, the very last working day of the year, December 29th, 2023, will be forever in my books as a memorable time. It took a lot of work to get that SBA. But now we have the financial capacity to pay this new plant that's going to give us significantly more capacity. And so we opened the rest of the seed round so we could put Series A for after that plant is open, so that we can secure a much higher valuation.
And you've also, that's incredible. And I recall some funding also that was sort of turned off and turned on again as part of the story as well, where you thought you had funding lined up and then it went away and you had to quickly pivot and adapt as well. I mean, I feel like this immigration story has really prepared you for this journey in so many ways.
True. So we thought we had the money for the plant as a conditional loan, so not an SBA, with another bank in the area. And when the vice president that had worked out the deal moved to a different bank, the whole thing fell apart, and we had to start from scratch. And yeah, that was a big hit. It really hurt our plans. And again, you have to be able to figure out when something new comes along, be it good or bad, then how do you react? What do you do? What does it mean for your plans? And be able to pivot really, really fast. So, okay, we're not getting the funding we thought we were getting. This was just a couple of weeks before closing. So what are we going to do now? We have the space that we already reserved, that we already started paying for. We already had ordered the freezer, the biggest piece of it all. How do we support ourselves until we get the rest of the financing we need for the plant? So started quickly working with another bank, started thinking of other places, other ways to work, other people we could get could help us to then change plans. And I know where you're leading to. It's hard to say, yes, as an immigrant, but as an immigrant and a woman, is it different to secure financing in the United States? Statistically, so it says it is. So LBAN, this is statistics from Latino Business Action Network, a group out of Stanford that does significant research in Hispanic businesses. If you are Hispanic and you're looking for a loan from a bank over $50,000, you are 60% less likely to get it. Hispanics are the group in the US that start the most businesses, significantly higher times, like 5-8 times. But still, only 2% of those businesses get ever to over $1 million in sales. VCs, VC funds, people of color, this encompassing other groups, not just Hispanics, get 2% of the VC funds in any given year. And if you are female, you get 2% of the 2%. So according to statistics, I'm against all odds to get financing for growing my business and getting to these plans. But again, I don't give up. You shouldn't give up. Always keep on trying. There's always a way. And you just got to figure it out. There's always a different plan, different people that can help you. And if you have a strong business, you have a good product, it will eventually happen. You might just have to pitch a few more times. You might just have to start a higher number of deals. But the possibilities and the options are there for you.
Wow. I think I've said that a couple of times now. I had the great privilege of interviewing DP Pawa on the show a couple of months ago, who wrote a book called Trailblazing Founders. And one of the key themes she talks about for entrepreneurs that have found success is whatever the statistics say about you have this chance of getting funding or this chance of doing this or that, it's never even on their radar screen. They just keep plowing ahead and having their mission and their vision and what it is they want to accomplish. And certainly that's been the story for you. How did you become so passionate about this mission and vision you've put down for your company? Because I think they're so powerful. I love your vision, right? Goodness for all, I think I'm in the ballpark there.
Goodness for all. That's right. So that has various levels. So for me, there's a couple sides about what drives me on a daily basis, what gets me out of bed. There's the side that we touched upon, the process that I learned in science and applying it in a different way. Here, you're solving a problem. What is that challenge and conquering that challenge? That's fun. for me. And then there's another side. That's the original soul of why I started the business, right? I was helping someone. And even though this person, we couldn't help her the way we wanted to, the original intent remains. When we needed an employee, the first man that I hired is a chef of Salvadorian origin. That then, when we needed someone else, he brought someone from his church, another Salvadorian woman, another immigrant. Then, when we needed someone else, she brought her daughter-in-law, who then brought her neighbor, who brought her friend. And then we started building this little community. We're all were of Hispanic origin. And then you start noticing that the same challenges are everywhere, and that people have these needs that it's possible to solve in a simple way with the synergies, the interaction with the business. And that it was possible through empanadas to impact people's lives. So we have the manufacturing that nowadays hires 98 people, representing 13 different countries. 99% of them are immigrants, people looking to make a life here, people that run away from some of the most violent countries in the world, people looking for a better life. The job that comes from the manufacturing that gives stability. We offer benefits, health insurance, 401k matching. And then now we have a foundation that structuring officially something we have always been doing since day one, helping people, so that we can provide the skills, the tools, the connections you need to survive and thrive in the US, to make it successfully to a life here in the US. We have people that come, most of them are refugees. Most of them came with whatever they're wearing that day. No, they don't speak English. They don't understand where they are, how it works. How do you make it through? When you plug into a community that can help you, that can guide you, that can provide for you, then you have not just made an impact in someone's life, you're making an impact in their families, you're making an impact in their communities. And you make it this cycle where the people you're impacted just grows and expands. So that by changing lives, the people that are making those empanadas and then providing a product that's also better for others, goodness for all.
I love this idea that you had your own, I'm gonna go ahead and call it struggles along the way, just arriving in this country, figuring out what to do next, even upon arrival, figuring out school, navigating, going from a middle school teacher to getting your MBA to launching a company to now serving so many others. And you've had this mindset all along the way to say, I'm not just going to do this to sort of help support me in my own circumstance, but recognizing that there's all these others around that are facing similar challenges, and you want to reach out and help them as well. And that's what this foundation is about. I just dropped in the link. I just dropped in the chat a link to Margarita's new foundation at latingoodness.org. You can go today. This foundation just launched, and if you want to support this amazing organization to help others find their way to have a healthy and a healthier and be easier way to sort of acclimate to being members of the United States and citizens of the United States, or they're already here, but now how do they sort of acclimate and find a way to get apartments and simple things that we often take for granted. That's what this foundation is about, correct?
Exactly right.
Unbelievable. And I love the passion you have here and getting lots of support in the chat from your fans out here. Julie Nelson, thank you, Julie. Margarita is an inspiration. Love it. Another Margarita out there joining us, a key part to most immigrant stories. Adaptability, certainly a huge story. Kimberly couldn't agree more, it looks like. Wow. And I have to say, I was just so taken back when I visited your factory, sort of 4 years later, just this fall, so 2019 and then the fall of 2013, when we met a couple of months ago, and to see that, sort of where you went from you and a handful of folks hand pressing empanadas to a walk-in freezer that was like the size of an NBA basketball court. That was just mind-blowing to me. So you've got this mission, you're helping others, you're making 25,000 pounds of empanadas so far. How did that happen? What's been distribution? What has distribution been like for you? And I know we have an announcement to make there. What's coming down the pipeline there?
So I guess if we backtrack, like what is it like? How do you start, especially right? Versus, and then we'll get to where we are right now. It's a bit of snowball effect. So the first account I ever launched was a teeny weeny store, just independent, I think single location in Bethesda, and somewhere where you could walk in and talk to the owner, and he was willing to give us a shot. Like, sure, why not? Let's try it out. And from there, then you get a couple others, and then you get to pitch. Whole Foods Local was the well, actually before that, we launched officially, did a full on of a retail line at another independent store that unfortunately is not around anymore, that used to support women founders. So once we had a handful of independent, it was possible to go to Whole Foods and say, see, it's working over there. Are these independents? Whole Foods needs this product. And then you get to try it at one store, or they used to be that way. Now that they're owned by Amazon, I think the process has changed significantly in how to go about launching. Very different to go into a chain, because we go back to many of the issues in entrepreneurship that are egg and chicken. They don't work. You don't take the product to them like you would to a small store in your neighborhood. You you sell the product to a distributor that then takes it to the grocery stores. So you have to work through a third party. And that third party, when you go to them and say, I want to work with you, they say, wonderful. Do you have any stores that are going to buy it from us? Not yet. So you go to the stores. They're like, I want to work with you. And I'm talking to the distribution, but you have distribution yet? So we can't take you. You need to be in our favorite distributor for us to work with you. So Whole Foods, it's one of the local programs that helps you kind of go around with that, and are much more willing to do work with the smaller suppliers, these emerging brands. We launched one store, and from there you could walk to every store, talk to the manager and tell them, look how well we're doing in this other location. You should have us too. And then you get to planogram, meaning you're there for the whole region, whole set of stores. You're in the map of where products need to be. And now they can give you a couple more regions, and that's where we thought it would be this year. But big surprise, this year we're going national with Whole Foods. So we'll be launching at all Whole Foods. You'll be able to find us this spring at every Whole Foods across the U.S.
How many locations were you in at Whole Foods, and how many will you be in now? Or how many do they have? I don't even know.
So I believe there's 481 locations currently. They're always opening new stores. Up to now, we had all of Mid-Atlantic, that I think it's like 50-something stores, and a chunk of Midwest. So we had under 100 stores with them, and now we're going to have every single one. So you'll be able to find us absolutely everywhere with Whole Foods. Now, it's not the only launch that will cover the nation this year. Well, we got Sprouts that we launched in the fall last year that also goes coast to coast. And we launched with HelloFresh, that then online you can find us if you're in HelloFresh, and you can certainly buy us as an add-on. And we also will be launching with Home Chef this spring.
Wow. Unbelievable, right? Starting with this chicken and egg game with we need, to get ourselves in the stores. Well, you need distribution first. Well, you need investors to put build this product, make this product. Incredible, the journey that you've been on, and yet your adaptability, your willingness and ability to problem solve and sort of do this testing hypothesis as you did as a scientist. Absolutely incredible. I just dropped in the chat for those of you wondering if you can find empanadas near you today. If you can't wait for Whole Foods to open up in a couple of weeks, I just dropped a link in there where you can go on and find every single location Maspanada's is across the United States. And as you just heard it here first, Whole Foods going live nationally in just a couple of months. Congratulations on those wins. And I've got a couple more questions from Margarita, and then I'm going to open it up to those of you in the chat here. I see a couple of questions joining in the chat. Please drop more of them in there, and we'll get to those here in just a minute. So when you think about this journey you've been on, Margarita, and this extraordinary success you have, how do you sort of think about food differently now than you did when you were just, working in your father's kitchen to sort of just feeding your own family, and now feeding literally thousands of people across the country? How does food, because it's been such an important part of your life, how do you think about it differently now, or how does that change your outlook?
I love that question, because that's something that really changed with having this company. I'll tell you a funny story. Actually, I probably shouldn't be. But so when I first started the MBA program, I was just starting to think about this company, was just starting to make some products, and I had a classmate that is a food scientist, and he tells me like, "This is awesome! What a great idea! Do you need help with your HACCP?" Do you know what a HACCP is?
No.
I didn't know either. That's your Bible if you make food.
Oh,
It's
interesting.
absolutely essential document. It's something. It's based on a protocols that NASA developed for food safety for their various setups, and for astronauts to be safe while they were under missions. And it's a hazard analysis and a bunch critical control points, blah blah, complicated. I had no idea what it was when he first said it. It's like, what are you talking about? Well, if you have food, you need to be very familiar with these rules. And you work out this document that says, this is my process from the very start, from who I buy my ingredients from or my packaging from, how I store them, how I maintain them properly, how I clean my facility, how I cook my food, how I cool it properly, how I package it. Absolutely every step has to be detailed there. And not only detailed there, but you on a daily basis fill in all this documentation that shows that every single batch you make follows those rules, and that you guarantee to the best of your ability that that food is safe. And it was a big learning for us. It took several classes, several aspects. It's very different to make food in your home kitchen than making food for others, and especially at industrial levels. The processes are not the same. The risks are not the same. We've become absolutely obsessed with food safety. I have a whole team that is dedicated solely to food safety. We are also a USDA inspected plant. So we have the support of USDA to maintain safety, to maintain these protocols. We have an inspector on site daily when we are producing. And that's something I had no idea about. I mean, yeah, you're supposed to refrigerate food, right? You're not supposed to leave it out too long. And that's starting to smell kind of fishy. Probably should not eat it. What was the expiration date? There is so much more than that. And once you become, it's one of those things where once you know, you can't stop thinking about it. So there's so many other things to watch out for. So now I struggle a little bit going to restaurants because I'm aware and I see it. I didn't see it before. Like, that's not really what they should be doing. I don't know if I want to eat this dish anymore.
Wow. And I have to say, visiting your factory back, in the fall, you've got all that yellow tape around there. And of course, we had to put the hairnets on and the jackets and everything to go in the factory. And the second my toe even got close to one of those yellow lines, somebody very quickly stopped me to say, "Hey, wait a second, you can't go past this line here." It was really impressive to get to see what you've taken and how you've taken all the lessons you've brought to life and maybe part of your science background on how to get things done absolutely right and done it with class. Well done. For founders out there thinking about, well, geez, you talked to this financing story, right? You did find a backer out there. Can we talk a little bit about how you found them and maybe who they are? And then we'll turn it over to the questions in the chat.
So it took me forever to figure it out. Don't get discouraged if you're a founder and you are just starting conversations. It's going to take a couple hundred before you understand.
That's it. That's it.
It's just a couple hundred. It's not very much. But it takes a while for you to learn how to pitch, to also figure out who to pitch. Who do you have alignment with? And also, I think when we started, we were too early. So for the company to really get to the point where it had enough momentum to be interesting. So I started the seed round, believe it or not, in 21. And I had just a couple of investors at the beginning, friends, family, an advisor, especially, that believed in us from the very beginning and was ready to support us and continues to play a big role. So that's huge. Always surround yourself with people that are experienced in your industry and will advocate for you and help guide you. And things didn't really start flowing till late 22. So part of the what got final things going was getting leads That is absolutely key for a round. You have to have one or two investors that call themselves leads and are willing to help you get that round closed and help collaborate with you with any discussions with potential new investors. So for us, that was Angeles Investors and Union Kitchen that met, hit it off, thought like, hey, there's something here. We can work together and be leads for this round. And at that point, I was able to have many of those conversations that I had started before fall in place. Like, okay, this makes sense. The company's at a good point, and there's this leads helping the process, and it all kind of fell in place finally. But yeah, it was a little bit over 2 years, and yes, a lot of conversations.
But so just a couple hundred conversations and a few lead investors. For those who might not know, when Margarita says leads, I think you're talking about lead investors, right? And this is a big part of influence, actually a book sitting right behind my head where they talk about social proof, right? Others want to see that, oh, someone else believes in you, right? And this is back to this chicken and egg thing with your distribution, and every step of the way, it seems like it's been for you. And yet you've persevered, your adaptability has carried you forward, and you've built this incredible business employing almost 100 people now, operating 24 hours a day. Is that right?
24 hours a day, 5 days a week right now. And we might need, before we open our new plant, to actually do weekends also.
Unbelievable. Well, what an incredible story. If there's anyone I've ever aspired to be like when I grew up, Margarita, I think it's you, and I'm going to push you near the top of that list. With that, let me turn it over to some of the great questions we have showing up in the chat here. I saw one from Carlos Granda up here. For someone new to the exploring Latin American empanadas, what are some classic fillings and dough styles they should try? And which is your favorite one?
So empanadas, my husband likes to say, are a little bit like barbecue. Because anyone in the US knows what barbecue is. But it's likely we all have a slightly different idea. There's Tennessee version, there's the North Carolina version, there's Texas version, right? So empanadas can be like that, incredibly versatile, incredibly diverse. You have differences in the dough. It can be wheat, that's the most typical. It can be corn, it can be yuca, it can be plantain. And fillings can also be anything from savory to sweet. The most popular, I think, the classics you want to start with are chicken and beef. And they are our best sellers by far. They are about 60% of our sales are those two flavors. Those would be the best ones to get started with for sure.
And follow-up question here from Carlos, your favorite? Is it like having a favorite kid? Is it like having a favorite kid?
I know you're not supposed to have a favorite kid. It's very wrong. But then if I have to pick for lunch, yeah.
Chicken. Well,
not that I want to eat the kids.
There you go.
No. But yes, empanada, chicken empanada would be my pick.
And Carlos is very clear on which one his is. Oh, and he's got a new idea for you here, the Thanksgiving empanada. So, we've got some time.
That's very fun.
Time before November rolls around. So maybe something to think about there. Let's see. We've got a few other questions showing up in the chat here. Who else was in there? Where'd you go? Let's see. Thank you for the responses. How did you approach the regulations permits you have to meet to be able to sell meat-based products in the wholesale stores? USDA certification has some big hurdles. How did that work out for you? Or how did you approach it? That's
also a bit what I was, definitely a big barrier for entry. And yet an absolutely essential process. So when you're small, it's easier to do for sure. And you got to get to know your local office, get to know your local inspector to get that done well. And you have to see them as partners. And they are really, we all are looking for the same outcome, safe foods. That's where HACCP comes in. So you need to train yourself. First, there's all this knowledge you need to acquire and understand to know what is it that you're talking about. Then another key piece that worked for us was securing some consulting also, some external consulting, someone that has those relationships, that also has that knowledge and can guide you in getting your HACCP well done, and also see it as a living document. So something you got to be updating on a regular basis. So those for me are the key parts. Train yourself, work with somebody that knows better than you, and make the inspectors your partners.
I mean, has there been any easy step in this journey for you, Margaret? Has there been any? Or have there been any?
Well, if it's easy, it's not fun.
Right? I think it was Teddy Roosevelt, President Teddy Roosevelt said, "Nothing." I'll paraphrase for him: "Nothing worth it is ever easy." And certainly, this has been a worthwhile journey for you, and you've impacted so many in the lives of so many. And little note from Carlo Mafuz here, another fellow Hoya. Congratulations on the journey here. I think we had one more question in here. Here we go. As we go into Super Bowl weekend here, Margarita, what are some great ways to prepare empanadas
Oh,
or
you
eat
want
them?
some sauces. So, and empanadas are not really for dipping. Empanadas, you pour the sauce over. Okay. So, not scooping with them, pour. The waters are very little. So, honestly, you could also dip with them. So, that's certainly possible with the teeny weeny ones. Now, there's really good salsas that go with it. You can do your hot sauce, your favorite Mexican hot sauce, something like Cholula would be good if you are somebody into spicy. I like myself more like a chimichurri sauce. You can find some really good recipes online to try them up. Salsa borracha would be a very good one also. Salsa verde. And then, I mean, my kids sometimes dip the use ketchup with the beef ones too.
Ketchup. Well, that is an
Hmm.
interesting one. Thank you for sharing all those nuggets. So as you think about your Super Bowl snacks this weekend, ladies and gentlemen, go out and get Maspanadas and plenty of options to spice them up or not. Really good. And lots of shout outs that continue to show up in the chat here. Very impressive story. The trend here in the US of snacking as a meal only continues to permeate across the consumer set, which should continue to provide tremendous tailwinds for Maspanadas. Love it. A little follow-up question here. I think we've got, how did you consider taking on the SBA debt, and how did you think about the personal guarantees that you have? Oh,
Yes, a very deep question for sure. I started really early. When I first started growing, well, the first logical step was the step, and SBA is a program meant for small businesses growing. So I applied very early on. I applied, I think, the first time in 19, and got denied for it. I was applying at that point just for $500,000, got denied. So had to look for other options. And this time around, it took over 2 years to get the loan. And I talked to several banks before there was one that was willing to play ball with me. And the personal guarantee was something we struggled with significantly. When you are an entrepreneur, you are a founder, you pour your soul, your life, your everything into what you're doing. And I lucky to count with the amazing support of my husband that has believed in me this whole time and has been willing to make huge sacrifices to support this journey. And this was one of the big discussions we had. Like this personal guarantee, you have to put your house on the line too as collateral. It was the last thing. It was where we had put a line before, to be honest, that should not be crossed. But I think I think we're onto something. I think we're at a point where we have enough momentum, where we have enough market fit, that this makes sense, and we are willing to go all the way. So here we are.
I mean, unbelievable. And talk about a teamwork here, and taking on, having the ability to take on some uncertainty and a different viewpoint on risk. And yet, all along the way, you've done it with this, I think, beautiful mission and vision for helping others and trying to make the world a better place, which is so, so impressive. And I couldn't be more just grateful and thoughtful that people like you exist in the world today, Margarita. With that, I want to drop Margarita's Instagram page into the chat. If you want to connect with her, there's a few ways to do it, and follow the Maspanadas journey, maspanadas.com. If you want to find more about the products and where they're located, and certainly follow her company on Instagram and see what they're putting out there. And of course, please do, if you want to support the mission of Latin Goodness, go here and you can donate today. It's very easy to do. There's a link on the page. You can make that donation today. And now with that, let's dive over to the rapid fire questions, my friend, and we'll wrap this thing up. Are you ready? You ready?
Absolutely. Let me say one thing
Yeah,
relating to the foundation quickly.
sure.
The interplay to highlight, because I know it might be in some people's minds, that yes, we are a business looking to be a profitable business. And yes, we have a foundation that apparently in most people's minds goes a different direction. And I think something to highlight here is the synergies between these two. In a business that has manufacturing, you're always going to have low skill employees, and then it will make the bulk of your employees. And there's huge turnover usually, and there's huge issues that you have to manage. I think by having this double bottom line that we have and supporting our employees the way we do, we significantly diminish those issues, turnover, and we have people that are dedicated, committed. They have a different feeling about their job. They're not here just to get a paycheck to pay the bills back at home. They're here because they also care and because they have the support they need to grow themselves. So we have people that when we need to call them and do extra hours, when we need to move things around, when we have something so delicate as food we're making for others, people that really go the extra mile and make the business much stronger than it would be otherwise.
So not only does the foundation help so many others, but in many ways, it helps your business and creates that engagement and low turnover and retention and getting people more and more willing to even, dare I say, lean into when you have these extra needs that the business often desires. What a brilliant, to use a fancy business word term, non-market strategy, I think is what they call that, Margarita. Love that story. Thank you for sharing it. All right, ready for the rapid fire questions, then we'll wrap this thing up. All right, Super Bowl Sunday. I think you might have already said this one. Favorite Super Bowl snack?
Empanadas, obviously.
It seems fair. I'm going to go buy a bunch this weekend for Sunday afternoon. Now let's get to the important stuff here, my friend. First concert you ever went to?
UB40.
A first ever on this show here, ladies and gentlemen. UB40. Last photo on your phone?
Probably my kids, for sure. They're 90% of my pictures.
No doubt about it. Most audacious goal for Maspandadas?
Take over the world.
Yeah, not bad. Along with goodness for all. Along with goodness for all.
One empanada at a time.
Describe your entrepreneur journey in 5 words, if you would.
That's a tough one. I don't know. You've got me here. Just
I'm gonna
enjoy
put
the ride. Really.
Exhilarating.
Enjoy
maybe?
the ride. Yeah, no, it's enjoy the ride. I think more than anything, and it's a roller coaster ride. There we go. Enjoy the roller coaster
ride. Oh, there's 5 words.
There we go.
Well done. Maybe a best ever finish on that one. Incredible story, and the thing that just keeps coming back to me is this passion for this mission and serving others. So, with that, closing thoughts for our listeners.
Buy empanadas. They're good for you, and they're good for others. And hey, really, overall, whatever you're doing, if you're an entrepreneur, if you have an office job, hey, enjoy life.
Right. There's lots of ways to go about our life. And certainly this is not one without its risks and challenges, but this commitment to having values, to having a mission and vision, to having a culture that really you support and then ends up supporting you and driving this synergy to make this company happen is just mind-blowing. And the results speak for themselves. A couple of hundred empanadas a day to 25,000 pounds a week and 100 employees is just extraordinary. Margarita, I can't say how just amazed I've been with this journey. And really, I guess I shouldn't be amazed given all that you've been through to find your way to this moment in time. I want to share a couple other quick thoughts. A few other people drop some notes in here. Love the beef empanadas. Well done. Shout out to Angeles Investors. Love that. Jersey, yeah, Carlos, I think you can get them in New Jersey. And if not already, I think they're there already.
Stop and Shop in New Jersey and Whole Foods all the way to Princeton. And
soon to be Whole Foods. I love it. Carlos dropped a note in here. Congratulations to you and the team. Absolutely amazing. With that, Margarita, I want to say thanks to you for sharing your story with me and the Meet the Founder live audience and being part of our very first episode here and showing us the power of leading a mission-driven company. And congratulations on your many successes.
Well, thank you so much, John. This was a lot of fun.
No, my pleasure. And thanks to our listeners for joining this first ever episode of Meet the Founder Live. Go check out maspanadas.com and go try Maspanadas at stores all over the country. And certainly join me next week, next Thursday, to meet Angel Lorente, founder of FinTech Connector, which will be a next episode of Meet the Founder Live. Connect with me at JCS Optimizer at LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for joining this episode today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, John Saunders. Keep moving forward.